She stormed out of nowhere, waving a paper in her hand like it was the law itself. "You can't stay here. This cabin belongs to the HOA now," she yelled, her voice echoing across the lake. I dropped my bag on the porch and stared at her, calm but burning inside. "This is my land, bought and paid for," I said slowly, but she didn't even blink. Instead, she pulled out her phone and barked into it. "Send the officers. Arrest him before he breaks in." Minutes later, a truck pulled up and 4 men in uniform stepped out. For a second, even I felt the chill of doubt. Had she actually gotten the law on her side? They marched closer, their faces serious, but something about them felt off. One of them avoided eye contact. Another's badge looked cheap under the sunlight. Karen smirked at me, whispering just loud enough, "Say goodbye to your little cabin." I clenched my fists, ready to stand my ground, because what she didn't know was that I had already seen these faces before, and they weren't real cops. The tallest one stepped forward, puffing his chest like he was in charge. "Sir, you're trespassing. We need you to leave immediately," he said, but his voice cracked halfway through. Karen folded her arms, grinning like she had already won. "Take him away." "He doesn't belong here," she snapped. I didn't move. Instead, I pulled out a small leather folder from my bag and opened it slowly. Their eyes flickered as they recognized it. My military ID. "Before you lay a hand on me, maybe you should check who you're talking to," I said calmly. The fake cop's face went pale and Karen's smile vanished for the first time. "This doesn't change anything," she shouted, pointing at the cabin. "The HOA has full authority over this property." I walked closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "That's funny, because this cabin isn't even in your HOA's jurisdiction, and I have the deed to prove it." Her jaw tightened, but before she could reply, the youngest officer whispered nervously to the others, "We should go. This guy's not lying." Karen spun around, her eyes flashing with rage. "No, stay right here. Do your job." But I had already pulled out my phone and started recording. Their fake badges, their faces, her threats. It was all going to be exposed. And just when I thought she might finally back down, she did something even I didn't see coming. Karen suddenly lunged forward, snatching my phone out of my hand. "No one's going to see this," she hissed, clutching it like her life depended on it. The fake cops froze, unsure of what to do. I didn't chase her. I just smiled. "Karen, you just made a big mistake." She blinked, confused, until I lifted my wrist and tapped the small black band strapped to it. "That wasn't my only camera," I said. Her face drained of color as a faint red light blinked from the cabin porch. My security system had caught everything from the moment she stepped onto my land to the second she stole my phone. "You think you're smart?" she snapped, waving my phone in the air. "You don't understand how much power I have here. Everyone listens to me." She turned to the fake officers, shouting, "Arrest him now, or I'll make sure you regret it." But this time, the men hesitated. One of them finally spoke, voice low. "Ma'am, we didn't sign up for this. He's recording everything." Karen's eyes darted around, panic rising in her voice. "Then take him down. Smash the cameras. Do something." But I just stepped closer, keeping my voice calm. "You can scream all you want, but every second you stand here, the real sheriff is getting closer." For the first time, she looked scared, and that's when I heard it. The distant rumble of a siren rolling down the dirt road toward the cabin. The siren grew louder, cutting through the tense silence like a warning bell. Karen's face twisted, but she still tried to bluff. "Good. The real cops are here. Now you'll finally get dragged off this property." She shoved my phone into her pocket and stood tall like she was in control. But the fake officers shifted nervously, glancing at each other. One even muttered, "We need to get out of here." Moments later, the sheriff's truck rolled up, dust cloud trailing behind. The door swung open and out stepped Sheriff Daniels, a man I knew well. He had served with me years ago overseas, and the look on his face told me he already sensed something was wrong. "What's going on here?" he demanded, scanning the scene. Karen bolted forward, pointing at me. "Sheriff, arrest this man. He's trespassing and threatening us." But before she could spin her lies any further, Daniel's eyes landed on the fake badges. He walked straight past Karen, grabbed one of the so-called officers by the collar and yanked his badge off. The plastic snapped in his hand. "Impersonating law enforcement?" Daniels growled. "That's a felony." Karen's confident smirk shattered. "Wait, no, they're with me. They're volunteers," she stammered, but Daniels turned to her with a stare that could freeze fire. "And you handing out fake HOA notices, calling in fake cops. Do you have any idea what you've just done?" She opened her mouth to argue, but for once, no words came out. In that pause, I leaned closer and whispered the line she'd never forget. "You wanted me arrested on my own land. Now watch how real justice works." Karen's bravado cracked like thin glass. She stepped back, shaking her head, still trying to spin her web of lies. "This is a misunderstanding. I was just trying to enforce community rules," she blurted, her voice trembling. Sheriff Daniels raised his hand, cutting her off. "Community rules don't give you the right to break the law. And you?" He pointed at the fake officers. "Drop your gear, now." One by one, they tossed their cheap radios and fake badges onto the ground, their tough act completely gone. Karen's voice rose in panic. "You can't do this to me! I'm the HOA president! Everyone listens to me!" But Daniels ignored her and turned to me. "You okay, brother?" he asked quietly. I nodded, keeping my eyes on Karen, who was now pacing like a cornered animal. "She took my phone," I said calmly, "but luckily my cameras have everything." Daniels gave me a small grin, then looked straight at her. "Hand it over." For the first time, Karen's hands trembled as she pulled my phone from her pocket. She tried one last time, whispering desperately, "If you delete that footage, I can make this go away. I can even get you a seat on the board." I laughed under my breath. "You still don't get it, Karen. I don't need your board. I have something better. Proof." Daniel snatched the phone from her hand and slipped it into my palm, her face twisted with pure hatred. But before she could lash out again, Daniels pulled out his cuffs. "Karen, you're under arrest for filing false reports, harassment, and aiding impersonators of law enforcement." The fake cops tried to sneak away, but deputies arriving behind Daniels blocked their path. Karen's scream tore through the trees as the cuffs clicked shut. "You'll regret this. You'll all regret this," she spat. But for the first time all day, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. Little did I know, she wasn't done yet. Karen thrashed against the cuffs, her voice cutting through the air like nails on glass. "You think this is over? My lawyer will bury you. The HOA will crush you." Sheriff Daniels didn't flinch. He tightened his grip on her arm and guided her toward the patrol truck. The way her eyes locked on me, burning with hatred, sent a chill down my spine. She wasn't bluffing. She had something else planned. As the deputies loaded the fake cops into another vehicle, one of them shouted, "Karen, don't leave us hanging. You promised we'd get paid." Daniels froze, then slowly turned back to her. "Paid for what?" he asked coldly. Karen's lips sealed shut, but the damage was done. The deputies exchanged looks, and Daniels leaned close to her. "Looks like you've got more to answer for than we thought." I should have felt relieved, but a nagging feeling gnawed at me. Karen wasn't the type to give up power so easily. As Daniels pulled away in his truck, her words echoed in my mind. "You'll regret this." I stepped back toward my cabin, ready to finally breathe, when I noticed something strange. The lock on my cabin door was broken. The wood around the frame splintered as if someone had forced it open. My heart sank. I pushed the door open slowly. The floor creaked under my boots. Inside, the air felt heavy, like someone had been there just moments ago. And then, from the dark corner of the living room, a shadow moved and a low voice spoke, calm and chilling. "Took you long enough to come back." My pulse hammered as I stepped inside, the glow from the porch light barely cutting through the cabin's shadows. The figure leaned forward and my stomach dropped. It wasn't a stranger. It was a man I hadn't seen in years, someone I never thought I'd find, waiting in my own home. He smirked, his voice steady. "Karen wasn't lying when she said you'd regret this. She works for me now." I clenched my jaw, forcing myself not to react. "You broke into my cabin," I said coldly. "That was your first mistake." He chuckled, shaking his head. "No, my first move was much smarter than that. I had her distract you outside while I went through your things." My eyes darted to the table. My documents, the deed, even my old military files spread open, as if he had studied every page. Before I could take a step closer, he lifted a small device from his pocket, a flash drive glinting under the dim light. "All your secrets, all your records, copied. If you think Karen was bad, wait until you see what I can do with this." Anger surged in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. "You don't know who you're messing with." I said slowly. He grinned wider, leaning back in my chair like he owned the place. Oh, I know exactly who I'm messing with. That's why I'm here. The HOA wanted control, but me, I want leverage, and now I've got it. For a long moment, the only sound was the creak of the cabin walls. Then I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You shouldn't have said that out loud. His grin faltered just slightly, because what he didn't notice was the small red light blinking in the corner of the room. Another camera recording everything. His eyes finally caught the faint red blink, and for the first time his confidence cracked. He shot up from the chair, pointing the flash drive at me like it was a weapon. "Turn that camera off, now!" he barked, but his voice carried more fear than power. I didn't move, I just folded my arms and let the silence drag every second, making him sweat harder. You really thought you could sneak into my cabin, steal my files, and walk out untouched? I said, my tone steady. That camera isn't just recording, it's live streaming to a cloud I control. Even if you smash it, every word you said is already saved. His jaw tightened and he glanced at the door like he might make a run for it. But before he could, a pair of headlights cut through the cabin windows. The rumble of another vehicle stopped outside and heavy boots crunched on the gravel. Sheriff Daniels' voice boomed from the porch. "You left your door open. You want to tell me why I see a stranger inside your house?" The man cursed under his breath, stuffing the flash drive back into his pocket, but I stepped in his way. "Going somewhere?" I asked quietly. His smug act was gone now. His eyes darted, desperate for a way out. Daniels pushed the door wider, hand resting on his holster. "Looks like Karen wasn't working alone," he said, tone sharp, "and I'd bet good money whatever's in your pocket isn't yours." The man's hand twitched toward the door, but I cut him off with a line he wouldn't forget. "You should have stayed in the shadows because now you're going down with her." The man froze as Daniel stepped fully inside, the weight of the law now pressing down on him. For a moment he looked like he might fight his way out, but the glow of the sheriff's badge and the steady red blink of my camera killed whatever courage he had left. Slowly he pulled the flash drive from his pocket and dropped it on the table, his shoulders sinking in defeat. Daniels cuffed him without another word. "Breaking and entering, theft of records, conspiracy with HOA fraud. Congratulations, son, you just bought yourself a long stay behind bars." Outside, the night air felt different, lighter. Karen's shrieks still echoed from the patrol truck parked at the end of my drive, her voice breaking as she realized her power had finally slipped away. The fake officers sat slumped in silence, their scam exposed for the whole county to see. I stood on the porch watching it all unfold, a quiet satisfaction spreading through me. This land, this cabin, wasn't just wood and dirt. It was my piece of freedom, something I had bled for, fought for, and earned, and no HOA bully or conman could take that away. Daniels gave me a nod before leading them off, and as the flashing lights disappeared down the road, I finally let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The cabin was quiet again, the lake shimmering under the moonlight, untouched and mine. I turned back to the door, speaking softly to myself but loud enough for the night to hear. I didn't fight for this country to be told I can't live on my own land. Not then, not now, not ever. And with that, I shut the door behind me, knowing the fight was over and justice had won.